Here we are, and here we go. It is Fight IQ presented by RotoWire. Here to talk to you about UFC 268, Usman versus Covington 2, the second of two rematch title fights, which is preceded, of course, by a amazing lightweight title fight, or not title fight rather, but title contender fight between Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler. My name is Chris Olsen. I will be the host of Fight IQ this week, as Sean was pulled away unexpectedly. But we are in great luck because the man known as Narco Cop has decided that he will hang around with us, actually pulling double duty this week as he goes to do his own podcast later tonight. But we're thrilled to have him here. Mike, how you doing tonight?
Good. How are you, Chris? Thanks for having me. What's up, Joe? What's up to everybody in chat? Yeah, I'm just happy to be here and help you guys out here, and I'm glad to be with you guys here. I mean, it's going to be an amazing card, so can't wait to break it down.
Absolutely. Follow Mike on Twitter at NarcoCop, and as I said, his own YouTube show on the YouTube channel is that NarcoCop MMA.
Correct, NarcoCop MMA. I have the Lambeau Place podcast. It's tonight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. All
right. Good stuff. Joe, how you feeling tonight? How are you feeling about this card?
Well, first of all, got to thank Mike. Mike is also, technical advisor for Chicago PD. So we were able to kind of get him to break away from that. Very popular show. Got to tell me how Tracy looks offset. Anyway, I can use a win for sure. I've been kind of like treading water, like death by 1,000 cuts. Last week, I needed Gian. Unfortunately, even though I picked Glover in the RotoWire selection, I went 6-0, by the way, the only one to go 6-0. But as it turned out, I needed Gian to win the money. So, Gian, I guess, I don't know, he had a problem with his face. I'm not really sure. He had all that Polish support, didn't work. So Glover cost me some money, even though, look, I'd always rather win, but not winning, at least having a guy like that, win was pretty nice. Glover Teixeira has always made me a lot of money in the past. So my bad for betting on Jan.
Absolutely. I learned my lesson about the fourth time. It looked like he was about to get finished and then came back and won. I decided no more betting against Glover. Worked out then. That got pretty nice. I think it was plus 270 at a certain point. And if you went for the submission, which is the way he usually wins, I'm sure that was in the stratosphere. But that is over. We are set for a new, and as I think we all agree, a much improved card, even though that one was great. This one is better. And so before we jump into that, I am going to take the liberty to say that to check out RotoWire content, go to rotowire.com/free for a 10-day free trial of all premium content. There's no credit card required. Also, do us a big favor. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at RotoWire MMA. We have separate channels now. We're trying to grow them out. So if you like our MMA content, the MMA content here, you want to see more of it, do us a favor, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Now, with all of that out of the way, we can finally get to fights. Odi Osborne, 8,700, taking on CJ Vergara at 7,500. Line on this fight. Osborne can be had for minus 185. The comeback on Vergara, plus 150. We saw a very different CJ Vergara in his Contender Series fight. He's a guy who's kind of known on the regional scene for being a slow counter striker. Came out like a house on fire in that Contender Series bout. Really smoked his opponent under a minute. I can't really trust him to fight like that all the time. Is my worry here. And even if he can, I don't trust his defense, especially with a guy like Odi Osborne who's going to get after it, who does have that length and, as we've seen, that power. I do think it's going to be a firefight either way, and so you should have a bit of both. I'm going with Odi Osbourne here, who I see as the more athletic, dynamic striker. But I think it's going to be a hell of a fight as it lasts. I think we'll throw to Joe first. And Joe, how do you see in this one?
14. That's the number. 14. The last 8 fights by Odi Osbourne all ended in finish. The last 6 fights by Vergara, including 5 wins, all ended in finish. None of Osbourne's fights made it out of the first round. This is a real violence fight. I mean, I think it's a sneaky fight to target because it's not super high profile. And there are people that have different thoughts about whether to target the so-called curtain jerker fight of the night, first fight of the night. And I think this is a very interesting fight to target. Odi, I believe, and someone could, if one of our millions of viewers can kind of check my math on this, I honestly believe that Osbourne may have been the first fighter on DraftKings to get the quick finish bonus, subsequent to it being introduced. So he may have been that first guy to get that, in his 38-second knockout of Rivera. So this is going to be an interesting fight. I mean, I would love to see what happens to this fight if it gets out of the first round, because you could have 2 guys that are, essentially gassed. If Vergara gets through the first round somehow, could be a really good live betting opportunity. But I am actually going to go with Osbourne as well. I think he's fought better competition. He's a better athlete. He's more dynamic. I could certainly see him, winning this, striking, maybe even, getting it down and winning by sub. But I really do like Osbourne. But the play here is really inside the distance. And that's why I think this is a sneaky fight to target on DraftKings. You could certainly make a stand on Osbourne, but if it gets into the second round, buyer beware. And for that reason, you might want to have a few shares of Vergara.
Always that first fight curse, right? You always hate to not go as heavy on the first one and then, be dead before the rest of the card comes out, especially in this fight. Mike, how you seeing this one?
Yeah, I kind of agree with a lot with what Joe said here. I see this as a violence fight. Vergara, just the way he fights is, it's a guy that's kind of like kill or be killed, and that's what I saw when I taped this guy for the Contender series. In his fight against Jacob Silva, he was hurt really, really bad, but weathered the storm, came back and stopped Silva in that 3rd round. This guy shows good power late in the fight also. So if this fight is to drag on, I do think that favors Osbourne. I do have a bet currently at under 2.5 bet, a violence bet. I got in a little early. It was -125. The line has jumped to -160. I wouldn't play it at those odds. But as far as DraftKings, I kind of like this fight. I think it's almost a must fight to target because I think this fight is going to end one way or another. Osbourne is very, very big for the 25 division. The guy fought at 45, now he's fighting at 25. But the one thing I will say, because I think he cuts a lot of weight here, and I think Vergara is going to have a huge cardio advantage here if this fight goes late. But everything that Joe said, the striking here is going to favor Osbourne. He's the cleaner striker. He's the longer guy. He has the better submissions. He's the better grappler. But man, Vergara is just a violent guy, and for me, to pick a side, I'm going with the better technical guy in Osbourne. But I would not be shocked if Vergara stopped this guy.
All right, take myself off mute. We can move on. Next fight up, Meslik Baghdasaryan versus Bruno Souza. Baghdasaryan can be had for 9,200. Bruno Souza 7,000 on DraftKings. Betting lines as follows: Baghdasaryan -350, Bruno Souza +275. And I know that Baghdasaryan is kind of new, but I can't really argue with this line, even as wide as it is. Baghdasaryan showed really fast hands, real killer instinct in his UFC debut, really ability to swarm and sort of overwhelm his opponent. Can get tired. We've seen that before, but Bruno Silva, a guy who trains with the Machida brothers, and it looks like it. He's very much a karate style, hang back, counter strike you, although not much power. Only 3 finishes, and 2 of those by KO TKO among those 10 wins. He's got some slick footwork. He'll angle off for his counters, but I don't really see him weathering the storm here. If he can have maybe an opportunity late, but I expect Meslick to swallow him up for his second stoppage win. And we'll start with Mike.
Yeah, so kind of agree with you. Yeah, Melsick has a very, very good striking, very high level kickboxer. But I'm a little less high on this guy. I see this guy slowing down a lot. He slowed down a ton in this Contender Series fight. Even in his last fight, if you watch the first couple of minutes of that second round, he really didn't do much. I think he was trying to catch his breath. England didn't really push him, which was a mistake. And, he kind of, lowered that right hand and he caught the left kick to the head. But, for me, yes, Bagdasaryan is a great, great striker, but I think his cardio really needs to be shored up. I don't think this guy has good cardio. But with that being said, Souza is just unimpressive on tape, man. He's got some really good wins in the regional scene in the LFA, against Elijah Johns, Miles John's brother, Javier Garcia, who's actually pretty decent. And he also has a win over Camilla Kirk, who's currently in the UFC. But very low volume, doesn't really have a ground game, doesn't grapple. And now you're telling me this guy's going to have to stand and strike with a guy like Melsick. Yeah, I know he's a karate world champion, but man, the power behind this guy's kicks, the hands from Melsick, it's just night and day compared to what Souza brings to the table. So, I do have a bet of the under 2.5 at plus 120. I'm not sure what the line is currently sitting at. But another spot where it's like plus 100, minus 110. But I still see this as probably most likely a stoppage from Melsick. But if this fight goes later, I will be kind of worried because Souza's been 5 rounds, I think on 2 occasions. And so he's definitely going to have a better cardio here. And as far as DraftKings is concerned, at 9,200, I rather play, Pereira or somebody like that instead of Bagdasaryan because I'm not, even though he's got great power, Souza has this weird karate style that's going to be tough to land on him. So, yeah, that's basically what I have on this fight.
You're on mute, Chris, but I know you're turning it over to me. So I agree a lot with what Mike said. One of the things that, is a warning flag for me is that, Bruno, you typically don't want to see 3 split decision wins, from a fighter coming off of a regional scene. You want to see domination. And yes, I get LFA is, certainly like a 2A type of organization. It's not UFC, it's not Bellator, but it's a pretty good regional promotion. But still, you've got 3 split decisions that this guy has won. And that does not bode well for an overly exciting fight on his part. I mean, maybe he could win by just essentially outlasting, the Armenian fighter. Both of these guys only have 1 loss. And I believe the 1 loss for the Armenian fighter was his first professional fight. So he's won every fight since then. I think this is his moment here. I think he needs to be aggressive and get in Bruno's face. I only watched a little bit of tape on Bruno. This was not a fight that interested me a ton. But I think, with all the options above 9K, he could be a tricky play. I mean, the Armenian that is, and I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. Apologies, I'm calling him the Armenian. But yeah, I'm gonna give him the win. I just don't know how much of him I'm going to have and what his ownership is going to look like on DK. But I do think with all those options at 9K up, even going down to Gaethje and up, I just don't know how much of him I'm going to have.
Yeah. So I think that's a little bit too much agreement, guys. The fans like it when we're at each other's throats. So let's see if we can get that going here pretty soon. Next fight up, let's start with the favorite. Why not? Dustin Jacoby, 9,600 on DraftKings, facing John Allen at 7,800. Line on this fight, another big one. Dustin Jacoby minus 400. Comeback on John Allen plus 300. And I'll get my craziness out of the way here. I'm picking John Allen to win this fight. The first thing that jumps out at me is Dustin Jacoby took this fight 5 days ago, and he's a minus 400 favorite. That seems a little odd to me. I mean, I understand he's going to be faster here. I understand he's going to have more power. John Allen's going to get in his face, but what I'm really interested here is I would say that John Allen's probably the best pure submission grappler he's fought to this point. The people who have tried to take Dustin Jacoby down have gotten him down. They haven't been able to keep him there. But I think Allen might be able to do so. And as I said, Allen will get in his face with that Brazilian Muay Thai style. He'll look to, I think, test his advantage where he can. And again, taking him down, getting him down, maybe in the first round, getting a couple of mat returns. Who knows what that does to the gas tank on less than a week's notice? So I think the line is just too wide here. My pick is generally a function of that. I'm just not comfortable laying that much, relying that much on DraftKings for Jacoby in this spot. Can he get a knockout? Of course he can. If he does, it'll likely be early. It'll likely bring you points. But, if he doesn't, you're going to be stuck with a pretty big meatball on, as what Joe said earlier, is a big card where, we have a lot of big scores to come. So that's my first dog play. I feel like that's reasonably spicy. We're going to start with Joe. Joe, you with John Allen or you with Dustin Jacoby on this?
Look, I don't hate your analysis. I mean, this is a warning Will Robinson type of fight for those who get the reference to Lost in Space. I know I'm dating myself a bit here, but there was a remake, a very good remake on Netflix. So yeah, coming off of a really short notice, to be at 9.6K. I mean, I think my good friend CRG10, who does the podcast with Brett Apley on Daily Fan MMA, said, that's cyborg pricing, that 9.6K. Like, this guy coming in off short notice is getting cyborg pricing. And I don't know how much of him I'm going to have. There's just so many better options. And who are you going to sacrifice in the upper tier, to get Jacoby into your lineups? Now, to your other point, Chris, he could come out, like you said, and just smoke him. That could happen. I mean, if Allen is smart, he will play a clinch game and try to wear on this guy's cardio and then maybe kind of take over. So this could be a pretty good live betting type of fight, maybe into the second round, or as this fight gets longer, I could certainly see the momentum shifting, because I do think Jacoby, he doesn't come off as that kind of guy that lives in the gym. I could be wrong. I don't know him personally, so I will apologize in advance if he does live in the gym. But I've definitely seen erratic performances from him. So I'm not going to go out and pick Allen, because I just think Jacoby on an average to good day beats Allen on a good day. So I'm going to stay with Jacoby, but I do say danger Will Robinson. 9.6K is awfully rich.
All right. Well, we'll break out the black and white television for Joe's next reference. But Mike, how do you see this one going down?
Yeah, I mean, I do have a bet on Jacoby by decision, plus 250. I'm basically turning a minus 400 into a plus 250. And my reasoning behind it is, yes, it's short notice. I think he's going to take his time. He's definitely the way better striker. Big dude, glory kickboxer. John Allen, kind of low volume, was being outstruck by Roman Dolidze at times, who's basically mainly a grappler. But the one thing I will say about John Allen is he's got a hell of a chin. The dude's been stopped, I believe, 3 or 4 times by submission, but never been knocked out. So the guy does have a good chin. But as far as DraftKings is concerned, 9.6 is just crazy to lay on Jacoby here. And even taking John Allen at 7,800 is not appealing based on his opponent being 9,600, and I think that's basically based on him fighting Alexa Kamer, which was his original opponent. That's why he has that price tag there. But at the end of the day, I do like Jacoby by decision. I think Jacoby's the better fighter. He's got good takedown defense. He's got good get-ups. John Allen is not the best grappler either. So, him to be able to take down Jacoby and keep him down there, I don't think it's going to happen. So, yes, I do agree that his gas tank might wear on him because it's a late notice fight. But, we've seen him fight through it. And I still think, overall, this guy's just a better fighter here.
Okay, that's interesting. That decision pick. I agree. I mean, we love doing that when we can, right? Turning those big favorites into big dogs with the props. So definitely something to look for. Okay, next fight coming up, we have. Oh boy, this is. I think we'll call this one the people's main event. We have Chris Barnett at 8,300 taking on Gian Velante at 7,900. Betting line for this fight, we got a pretty close one here. It is Volante minus 135, Barnett plus 110. And what can you absolutely say about either one of these guys, frankly? But let's start with Gian Velante, who, I mean, he's retiring after this fight, and you can see why. I mean, first of all, I think he should have moved up to heavyweight a long time ago. He's always been a really big light heavyweight, but he's moved up, and he's just looked terrible in every fight. He was on his way to winning against Maurice Green until he basically tapped to exhaustion, which is something I've never really seen before. And then you had the fight against Collier where he looked a little better but was tired by the end of the first round, got hurt multiple times in that fight. And Barnett is athletic for a big dude, and he's just going to be in there swinging and making things chaotic. And I might never have trusted Vellante not to melt under those conditions. I certainly don't now. I think Barnett, we saw his rock chin against Ben Rothwell. He did ultimately get him out of there by sub, but took a lot of big shots and landed a lot of big shots when he was dead tired, which is something I will not take for granted when it comes to Vellante. I think he just gets swallowed up by the hurricane that is Huggy Bear here. If this goes for too long, it's going to turn into an epic slogfest through the mud. But I think Huggy Bear probably gets this done before that. I'm gonna say he's gonna take a finish here. And for Vellante, the retirement couldn't come at a more perfect time. I just think he's finished. Looked terrible on the scales again, and I just think Huggy Bear gets his proper UFC debut. And we'll start with Mike on this one. Mike, how do you see this one going down?
Yeah, I mean, you got to stack both these guys for DraftKings. It's the best. No, but I mean, stay far away from both these guys on DraftKings, I believe. If I was to take anybody on DraftKings, it'd probably be Barnett. But at 8,300, I just don't think he's going to stop Vellante. The one thing Vellante is, he's durable. Most of his losses when he's getting stopped are later in the fight, in the third round. Most of the time, the one time to Mikhail Olajaychuk, he took a shot to the body and he went down. The one thing I will say about Huggy Bear is he does throw hard. He shows a great chin. That's all true. But I just don't like what I see from the guy either. And, looking at these two guys on the scale, I'm not too happy with both of them. Gian Velante, this is his, last fight. He's going to retire. And he absolutely looked horrible at the weigh-ins. But what I do have is I have a over 1.5 bet. I got in early again. It was minus 155. I have a lot of units on it. I have 4 units. But now, the price has kind of swelled up. I would not touch it at this price. It's minus 220, 225. But honestly, I think this fight might go the full distance. And, I know they're two heavyweights, but these guys get very tired. It's going to be a really sloppy fight. And I think that, I don't think any of these guys is going to stop one another. So, it's a fade on DraftKings, and it's, fight goes to decision at plus money is not bad at all.
Yeah, certainly a possibility. I mean, if you are hinging on the finish, it's probably first round or bust, most likely. Definitely one of those where we could see them, struggling, and we could see a lot of hands on hips if this goes into the second and third round. So definitely be on the lookout for that if you're looking to play either one of those guys. Okay, next fight coming up. Oh, what am I possibly thinking? Yeah. How could I forget? Joe, sir, what do you have for this one?
Okay, so a phrase that I never thought I'd hear myself say: there is line value on Volante on DraftKings. I am not taking that line value, but I wholeheartly encourage guys that I'm playing in 3-mans and 5-mans on DraftKings do take the line value in Gian Velante. I'm going to pick Barnett here. It's not an overly enthusiastic pick. I will tell you that, our good friend of the program, Uncle Weezy, who, took over last week for the real Chris Olsen, who had an appointment with his manicurist. He has a really funny dialogue going about a TV show with, Huggy Bear and Gian Velante and, their cops. I mean, listen to Stat Diggers and you can kind of hear the whole monologue. But I'm going to go with Barnett here. It's not an enthusiastic pick, and those guys who see me in those 3-mans and 5-mans, please take the line value in Gian Velante. I really wish you would. Thank you.
That will be something to watch, and I'll definitely be on the lookout for that as well. Okay, now we go to the next fight. Ian Garry making his promotional debut at 9,500, so a big one there, against Jordan Williams, who's at 6,700. Line on this fight, where are we? Yes, is minus 375 for Ian Garry, plus 280 for Jordan Williams. Ian Garry, coming over from a decent run in I believe Cage Warriors, right? And kind of sort of a lanky counter striker. Good footwork again, kind of can use his length well. Didn't really see much in him that says he's going to be a finisher here. We'll have to see how that plays out. Jordan Williams gets hit way too much. We've seen him as a grappler. He tried taking down Mickey Gall. He got him down, didn't work out too well. But he is a wrestler by trade, and that'll be his path here. Ian Garry showed himself to be a decent scrambler. And I'm not really in the mood to trust Jordan Williams, even though 6,700 for a wrestler, maybe something you want to take a little bit of a look at, but especially since I don't expect Ian Garry to be lethal. But so I think if I had to straight pick this one, it would be Ian Garry, but I'm not touching that 9,500, despite the proclivity for Williams to blow up, which he could do. But I think I dog it past this one as far as DraftKings goes, because I'm just not willing to lay out that kind of salary for Ian Garry. But Joe, we'll start with you. What are you thinking about this one?
Yeah, so I am going to lay that salary on Ian Garry. This is just, Jordan Williams, I believe, said as much to James Lynch. This is a setup fight. This guy is 23 years old, and while I don't move in that direction, he is not very hard on the eyes. 7-0 pros. He's got also 7 amateur fights going back to 2017. So, yes, he's been fighting since he was 17 years old. 23. This is a guy that the UFC marketing machine wants to get behind. I believe he has the best inside the distance line on the entire slate. And for that reason alone, I want some shares of him. I'm not sure what ownership is going to look like. But I'm going to take a lot of Gary here. Knowing that it's a setup fight, I don't know if that motivates Williams to fight harder or if he just essentially says, the hell with it. I'm not really sure. He did take a pretty decent beating from Gall, who looked better than he had ever looked, in that fight, or better than he looked in a long time since he fought Mike Jackson, maybe. So I got Gary here. Despite the flags, I am going to lay the 9.5K and work him into some lineups. I think you almost have to, based on having the single best inside distance prop on the entire slate and knowing that this is a guy that the UFC wants to get behind and market.
All right. I get that. I don't know. I didn't really see it in the tape. It could be opponent dependent where, Jordan Williams just comes in with his chin up again and gets rocked and maybe tries to grapple and Gary gets in a mat return or two for good measure. But I don't know. That's a tough lay for me, but I'll probably have a few shares. Mike, how you seeing this one?
Maybe I can change your mind. I actually like Ian Gary a lot, man. I've been following him in Cage Warriors. You go back and watch his fight, 5-round fight against Jack Grant. Jack Grant is a really, really, really good grappler, really good submission grappler. And, he's really good in scrambles. And, Ian Gary was out scrambling him. He's out grappling him. And, on the feet, he's very long, good striker, very good calf kicks. The one other thing I want to mention about this guy is he's moved to Sanford MMA, which is probably an upgrade for him. He's very young, so he's learning on the fly now. I'm very high on this guy. This guy beat a guy. People are not going to know this guy, but I do know him. His name is Matthias Figlik. Very, very good fighter out of Poland. Extremely good fighter. Him and his brother are very high-level fighters, and Ian Gary submitted him with no problem in the first round. I really like Ian Gary. I think laying the 9,600 is right. Or 9,500 is right here, just because Jordan Williams, getting hurt by Mickey Gall, is not a good look because Mickey Gall is a submission guy. I know he got submitted, but initially he got hurt really bad before he got submitted. The other thing I want to say is that this guy's a diabetic, and I think he's a type 1 diabetic, and he found a new doctor that helped him with the weight cut to 170. Because this guy was fighting small at 185. But the problem is, I think, and I'm not sure, but based on what I saw in his last fight at 170, it looks like his chin is gone because he's cutting this weight, So there's a lot of concerns with his chin here. I just think Gary is just better everywhere. Better submission grappler, better scrambler, better striker. And Gary by submission plus 550 is a really, really good line for a guy that's probably levels above what Jordan Williams is on the ground.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Definitely think that submission prop is live, and you may have moved me to a few more lineups. Maybe I'll take a few more now. Certainly don't want to be caught with egg on my face in that one, especially because if he goes out there and gets starched, I'm going to be like, obviously that's what happened. So. Don't want to be that guy, so probably have a few more shares than initially. But let's move on here to our next fight. It's Nasruddin Imavov at 8,500, facing another newcomer to the promotion, Chris Curtis. I skipped ahead there. He is facing Edmund Shabazian, who is at 7,700. There you go. My first time hosting, folks. Growing pains, so bear with. The line on this fight, which I will get correct, is Imavov minus 115. Comeback on Edmund Shabazian minus 105. And for me, this is a fight where, we have seen Imavov. He's a real slick striker. He's got good footwork. He's got a good command of range. I think he's going to lean on the wrestling a little bit more in this one. He is a Dagestani fighter. He's trained with all those guys. Certainly no stranger to a takedown. We saw him take down Ian Heinisch in their fight. And simply put, the book is out on Shabazian, I think. taken down and ground out in each of his last 2 fights. Shabazian is a lightning striker who has got power in his hands. He was hurting Jack Hermansson very badly until Hermansson was able to get that fight to the ground and basically had to sell out to get that fight to the ground the first time he did. And if he didn't, who knows what would have happened. I think Imavov can survive on the feet here if that's his play. I actually think that would be the more intriguing fight, the one I would like to see more. But I think Imavov's path of least resistance here, and the one I think he's going to go with, especially if he gets stung early, is a wrestling path. And for that reason, I think he plays a little better on DraftKings. I think watching these guys slug it out will be fun and could potentially lead to a finish one way or the other. But I like Imavov to mix in the takedowns here. And I believe we start with Mike on this one. Mike, how you seeing this fight?
Yeah, I think it's a really, really close fight. I kind of disagree a little bit with on the feet. I think Imavov is probably the cleaner, the more technical striker here. But I think the power lays with Edmen Shahbazyan. But the issue with that is Edmen Shahbazyan's power goes away after, the 7.5 minute mark. And, I think that's all he carries. He carries it early. And then, this guy has shown a very, very bad gas tank over and over and over again. I'm not going to say Imavov has the best gas tank, but I do believe he has the better cardio here. He really, really impressed me against Heinisch, stopping a guy in Heinisch that, faced some really, really good guys. I don't think he's been stopped once by submission, but man, he just looked really, really polished in that fight. Heinisch attempted, a ton of takedowns and just wasn't successful against this guy. So he also has a good takedown defense. I think on the feet, I favor Imavov. He's the longer guy. I think he's the better technical striker. And the later this fight goes, I think it favors Imavov by far. So, I don't have any type of bet on this play. I don't really like the DraftKings numbers, 7,700 and 8,500 on Imavov, just because Imavov I don't think is that much of a grappler. I think he has 2 takedowns in his career. And I'm just afraid this is going to go to decision. So, paying 8,500 for a fight that probably goes to decision is probably not the way to go. So yeah, if I had to pick one, I would pick Imavov. I think he's the better striker. He's the better prospect. After this Shahbazyan has really fallen off a cliff lately.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have seen that gas tank go away. Definitely interesting to see what these guys look like when they slug it out. Joe, how do you see this one?
Okay, so I am on Shahbazyan here. One, I like the line value on DK. I think this line will flip by fight time. He's minus 105 already at 7.7K. That's real line value, which I like. Neither one of you guys mentioned it, so maybe I'm breaking some news to you guys, but Shahbazyan has left Glendale Fight Team and is now training at AKA with, all those Russian killers. That's DC's camp. That's Habib's camp, Islam Makhachev. Now, granted, it usually takes a fight or 2 or 3 to get a benefit out of a camp change, but at least this kid had recognized he's gone about as far as he could go with the Glendale Fight Team and has done something to improve himself. Major camp shift, in my opinion, going to AKA. So I like that. I also, I think there's a lot of recency bias. He took 2 guys who were probably top 5 fighters, not probably are top 5 fighters, and he lost to them. And he did not look awful in either fight. Before that, he was just kind of running through, everybody. So I think this is a step down for him. And I think this is a very winnable fight. I'm not saying the UFC is doing him a favor, because I do think Imavov is good, but I think this is just a step down from the guys that he's been facing. And I don't think that Imavov is going to use wrestling first, but we'll see. I like Shahbazyan. I like the line value, 7.7K. I think he's going to be pretty popular. Much better line value on this fight than there is on Gian Velante. So give me Shahbazyan here.
I would appreciate it if you would take a dig at Volante for every fight prediction. That would be ideal for me. But some contention there, and I think what we do all agree on, it's going to be a great fight, and can't wait to see that one. That one of the fights on that's not the main card that I am very much looking forward to. Okay, now we get to newcomer Chris Curtis, who is taking on Phil Hawes, who is the favorite at 9,400. Curtis comes back at 6,800 on DraftKings. The line on this fight, minus 300 for Hawes, plus 250 for Chris Curtis. And this is one where I'll say I'm very comfortable laying that number. Chris Curtis is sort of a swarming striker, but defense leaves a lot to be desired, and can be taken down very easily. Hawes has tremendous power. Hawes is a great wrestler, and I have to say, he showed us in his last fight. I mean, Kyle Dawkins thought he was just going to go out there and get him tired. Turned out Kyle Dawkins was the one getting tired late. So if Phil Hawes has a gas tank now, which is something that had always plagued him before, he's going to be all the more dangerous. And I really like him here. I think he's a guy who is going to be better everywhere. I think this is a really tough debut for Chris Curtis here. I don't see a lot of paths. I'm going to be all over Phil Hawes in this one, and we'll start with Joe. Joe, where do you see this one going?
Yeah, so I'm going to actually take a flyer with Curtis here.
Ooh.
And I'll tell you why. Look, and again, I'm doing this based primarily on the opinion of somebody else. So I should warn everybody, not to necessarily tail me here, because I'm putting a small amount of faith into someone who knows this fighter quite well. And Curtis has always had a chip on his shoulder. He has not gotten he's not gotten the call up prior. He was essentially had retired. Apparently he comes from money, so he doesn't need to fight. But for him, it's just about, the competition. And when he wasn't getting that call up, he got a little discouraged. What I also find very interesting is why Hawes did not want to fight Curtis on short notice previously when he had the opportunity to do that. And now Curtis is coming back off of having at least, somewhat of a more complete camp. So I found that very interesting. Like, why not take the guy on short notice, and now you're agreeing to fight him, and maybe he got pushed into taking this fight, and maybe he realized that if he doesn't fight now, he's probably not going to fight before the end of the year. So I'm a little suspicious. And again, you guys know I love narrative. So the combination of the GOAT Cody Safic saying that he liked Curtis in this spot and why, and the idea that Hawes could have had this fight where the same fight with his opponent getting much, much shorter notice, and he refused it, is kind of suspicious to me. So I'm going to take a flyer with Curtis at 6.8K. You can do a lot with your lineups on DraftKings. And I think Hawes is very, very prohibitive at his price point. I mean, we've seen him on wobbly legs before. We've seen him cardio dump. I think if he cannot finish Curtis in the first round, I think this could be a very interesting fight. So I'm going to take a dog stab on Curtis at 6.8K and just build up my lineups around 6.8K.
All right. Well, I didn't think I'd be saying this, but Mike, break the tie for us here.
Well, I have to agree with Joe. 6,800 for a guy like Curtis. The one thing I'll say, laying, I get that Phil Hawes can get takedowns, and stuff like that. But man, this guy, Chris Curtis, is very hard to get out of there. 34 fights, only been gotten out one time, and that was by Ray Cooper, who has huge, huge power. Not many people can stand with Ray Cooper's power. The guy did fight, Magomed Karamov, who's a really, really good grappler, high-level grappler, two different times. Both times went to decision. So, the issue I have here is, is Hawes a good wrestler? Yes. Is he actually a good submission grappler? No. And, Chris Curtis, the other thing that Joe mentioned, and I read something about that, the fact that, Hawes didn't take the fight, he said because he was preparing for a wrestler in Darren Wynn. He got a striker in Chris Curtis. He wasn't prepared. He was preparing for a complete wrestling match, stuffing takedowns, stuff like that. So instead, he pushed it back so he can prepare for this guy. Now, we could say the same thing about Chris Curtis because he's just walking into the fire, right? He's accepting the fight on a couple of days' notice. So, the excuse that he's giving as far as, he wasn't prepared for a striker and he was prepared for a wrestler, it might be true. I don't know. But, again, DraftKings, I can't lay that big 9,400. I'd rather lay it with Ian Gary at 9,500 just because, again, his cardio looked good last fight against Daukaus, but I can't just automatically say this guy's cardio's fixed after one fight because I still think he has a cardio problem. The one thing I will say is that I just wish Chris Curtis would push a higher pace and make this guy work a little more, because when you watch Chris Curtis, he's a counter striker. He doesn't throw a lot of volume, and he pressures, but he doesn't pressure with actual strikes and stuff like that. He's pushing people back, but he's not throwing enough strikes for my liking. If he does that here and he can stuff some of these takedowns from Hawes and make him work, I think he's going to get Hawes tired. And another thing with Curtis is he carries his power very late into fights. He has multiple round 3, round 4 stoppages, probably over 5 or 6 of them. So, this guy carries his power late. Hawes, we know, historically gasses, not last fight, but historically this guy does gas. And I'm afraid here, Chris Curtis is not a complete slouch. People say he's moving up to 185, but this guy's fought at 205 even. So I don't think it's a problem. But yeah, I could not. I think the stab at 6,800, 6,900 just opens up so much more for you in DraftKings.
All right. Some disagreement there. I definitely hear you about one fight not curing all the ills of the gas tank, but Daukaus was really pushing him, and I think he passed that test. So if you want to see it again, I think that's fair. I definitely think that's fair. But look, we do have to find places to save salary. So you got 6,800. You do have the narrative. You do have the history of Cooper there, and so could be definite roll the dice spot for sure. Let's go now to our next fight, which is Bobby Green at 8,600 versus Ally Quinta at 7,600. Line on this fight: Bobby Green can be had for -185. Ally Quinta at +150. I think this is a spot where, I think Bobby Green is actually a little bit being undersold here at the -180. I think he might actually be a victim of all those unjust scorecards that he's gotten over the years. Because look, you can say that in the eyes of the judges he gives fights away because he's the ultimate let my opponent dictate, and then I'll come back and sting him with shots. And judges don't respond to that because let's be frank, a lot of judges don't know what they're doing. But I think that I think this is a walkover spot for Bobby Green. If I'm being honest, I think he's better everywhere. He's faster. He's the better kickboxer. He's going to be the better grappler. Ally Quinta is a reasonably sharp boxer, and he can get a pressure game going, but just sort of too one-dimensional. And I think the speed and the head movement and the angling off of Bobby Green here, I just think Quinta is going to be a step behind the whole fight. Quinta is very tough, so he could see the final bell here, but which could make it a little tough on DraftKings. But I expect Bobby Green to just pour this on. I mean, you're looking at a guy who turned it on against Fiziev and almost won that fight. So I really like Green here. Maybe better as a bet, but I'll have a few stabs at DraftKings as well, just in case he does pour the volume on. And I think he could be a contrarian play if that happens. He's always in there landing a lot of strikes. It wouldn't shock me if we saw a takedown or two, although I'm not quite banking on that. But Bobby Green is the winner of this fight for me. And I think we're starting with Joe here. Joe, how do you see this one?
Yeah, I think we were supposed to start with Mike, but that's okay.
Oh,
It just an interesting fight for me because, yes, that was very impressive. I mean, I think if that fight went a couple of minutes longer, I am talking, of course, about Bobby Green and Fiziev. Green might have finished him. I mean, he was really hurting him, and he had worn him down with volume. I mean, the volume that he threw in that third round, that to me was probably the single most impressive performance in a win or loss by Bobby Green. Now, the reason why I'm a bit conflicted here is because I don't know what Quinta's motivation is. I mean, this is a guy that has not looked great recently. Apparently, the UFC gave him not a choice of opponents, but essentially floated the idea by him, like, hey, would you like to fight Bobby Green on an MSG card? Like coming out of real estate purgatory, like if this was the same guy that fought, 5 rounds against Khabib, I would have to give him a shot here, especially as a dog. But, I just don't know what his motivation is. I mean, I did not see weigh-ins. I don't know how either one of these guys looked. Barring you guys telling me that one or the other looked like crap, I would probably lean towards Bobby Green, but something tells me I should have a few shares of Ally Quinta at dog, at a dog price, in some DraftKings lineups. But in all honesty, this is not a fight I'm targeting. So I'm probably going to be, and again, I don't know what ownership is going to be in this fight. I'll probably be at or under ownership. I really don't see myself targeting this fight because I don't really have a strong take. I would tend to chase the salary on Quinta. I don't think I'll have that much Bobby Green because he would pretty much have to finish Al to score well and get optimal. So I guess I'll pick Bobby Green, but I probably like Quinta more for DraftKings, if that makes any sense. So take that with it what you will.
Yeah, I mean, dog or pass, we see that. We should note, Ally Quinta, 2 years since he's fought, so maybe coming off a little rust there as well. Mike, who I apologize, I think we were supposed to get to you first, but how are you seeing this fight?
Yeah, I like Bobby Green. I like him a lot. He has the whole game, the good ground game, the good scrambling, the good striking, good takedown defense. He can take you down when he wants to. The guy is really, really good. You look at this guy's record, right? And it's 27-12. And look at it on the face, you're like, oh, this guy's okay, he's a journeyman. But no, man, this guy is really, really good. But I will say one thing about Bobby Green. This guy fights down or up to his level, right? So what I mean by that is he fights down to his opponents. If it's an opponent that's not really good, he fights down to their level. Or if it's an opponent that's really good, he fights up to their level. And we saw it in the Fiziev fight, but then we also see it against guys like, Clay Guida, Alan Patrick. He gets in these close fights against guys that he's absolutely should be, winning easily in these fights. But no, Bobby Green plays around a lot. Bobby Green, he loves fighting. He says he loves fighting, and he showboats out there, and he does stuff like that. Well, last fight, we didn't see that against Fiziev because he knew that Fiziev is a very, very high-level, dangerous striker. So, the playing around and stuff, he couldn't do much. So what did we see from Bobby? He leveled up his game. He showed more striking. He showed more volume, which is, awesome, right? Now he's fighting Ally Quinta. He's been gone for 2 years. To me, it's a step down versus Fiziev. And now, which Bobby Green are we going to see? The guy that goes down again to his opponents, or the guy that just fought Fiziev in an absolute war when he almost got Fiziev out of there in the third round? If it's that Bobby Green, I'm very confident in the 180. But that's the problem with him. I cannot lay minus 180 with Bobby Green. If this was plus money, then I can definitely take Bobby Green. But I can't lay chalk with this guy because you just don't know, which Bobby Green is showing up. And that's the issue I have with him. And as far as DraftKings, I don't think he's going to land takedowns on Quinta. He might throw some volume, but again, Quinta's not good defensively. He does get hit a lot, but it's probably one of those fights that I just want no part of in DraftKings. But
Yeah,
I'm sorry, if I had to take a side, I would take Bobby Green for sure. I like Bobby Green. I like his skill set.
right. Yeah, and that's totally fair. I mean, both of these guys, if nothing else, are tough. So it could be one where you do, even if the volume does pour. We have the .4 significant strikes now. So I mean, it just wouldn't be enough at the price point. So that's definitely something to consider. All right. Next fight coming up. It is the debut of Alex Pereira versus Andreas Michailidis. Pereira coming in at 9,100. Michailidis 7,100. Odds on this fight is Pereira at minus 275. Michailidis coming back at plus 210. And this is one where I wouldn't even consider this laying. Real, I think this might be sort of a good price for Alex Pereira. I think that Michailidis, we've seen him go for a takedown or two. He's a strong guy in there, but generally what he likes to do is sort of just bulldoze in on his opponent with those big strikes. And against a laser striker like Pereira, that just can't be a good idea. I think that Pereira is going to get him out of there. If he does go for takedowns, that changes things. You would expect that he would try, but as someone who's not really a wrestler, who knows how well that would even go. It's not as though Pereira is, a fish out of water defending. We have seen him defend on the regional scene. These fighters maybe not the best of caliber, but it is there. He has done things like spread his stance, like try to dig for underhook. So the fundamentals are there, and I just don't see Michailidis really getting things done in that way. And again, I think if he comes in with that house on fire style of closing the distance, throwing big looping shots, he's just going to get countered to death. So I like Pereira here. I think he gets this finish. And I think we were mentioning setup fights before. I think this is a welcome to the UFC for Alex Pereira. And I like him quite a bit here. And now we will start with Mike, since we missed him last time. So, Mike, how you seeing this fight?
So I kind of agree with you. I do like Pereira striking. I mean, we know this guy is very, very powerful. He's known to knock out, in the kickboxing scene. He knocked out Adesanya. He beat Adesanya twice. But I have concerns. This guy only has four MMA fights. This guy, the guys he's fought, man, Thomas Powell, the guys that he's fought are just not that good. And the one loss that he does have is by submission, right? His gas tank is not great. And Michailidis, I will say something. I taped him kind of good. In the UFC, no, he doesn't grapple a lot. But when you go look at his regional scene, he does grapple. And the other thing I have to mention about Michailidis is he is a BJJ black belt, so he is going to be the much better guy on the ground. I heard an interview where they asked him, hey, are you going to take this fight to the ground? And he almost was going to answer. And he said, oh, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out, So I think he knows, you've got to be crazy to sit there and stand with a guy like Alex Pereira. This guy, you go watch that last guy he knocked out. I mean, the guy was out for 5, 6, 7 minutes out cold. So it was a very scary scene. This guy is really, really dangerous when it comes to striking. So for me, I do have Pereira in a parlay with Gary, but I did hedge with something, that I really liked. Michailidis submission plus 1,400. I think that's a really, really big line for a guy that's the better grappler here. And his path of victory is getting the fight to the ground. We know this. So even in DraftKings, I like both guys in DraftKings. I think, both guys should be targeted. Because I think, if this stays standing, Michailidis is going to be out of there. If this gets to the ground, Michailidis has a chance to finish. And even if he doesn't finish, you're getting a guy at 7,100 who's going to have top time, who's going to have control time, and he's going to score. So I think you can play both sides here on DraftKings. But, that 1,400 tag just kind of stuck out to me by submission.
Yeah, that is a big one. And I know you like playing those and hitting those, I should say. more often than most. What I will say is that we have seen before, since kickboxing is shorter rounds, we have seen guys like who's the kickboxer who came in who got knocked out by
Gokhan Saki.
We have seen Gokhan Saki. We saw when he made his debut against Frankenstein there, he gassed out and did end up winning that fight, but by the skin of his teeth. So there are definitely concerns for a kickboxer coming in. The problem is that we have seen guys grapple on the regional scene and then just forget it when they get here. As you say, it has to cross his mind when facing a kickboxer that, look, I got to take this guy down. So definitely a shot to take, but I think Pereira is still the way to go here. But definitely an interesting spot. Okay, now we get to the really
Chris.
Oh my goodness, I did it again.
Okay, so this is a great fight for narrative. Okay, so Pereira actually beat Israel Adesanya twice, once by KO, once by decision in kickboxing. He was also a dual weight champ in Glory, and as about as active as a Glory fighter could possibly be. He was both, I believe, middleweight and light heavyweight champion for Glory. The difference between him and Saki is that he is an active fighter. Saki was coming off of a layoff, before he made his UFC debut, and then ultimately got smoked by Roundtree, which was a really good spot for Roundtree. So I like Pereira as well here. My good friend John Stargarian, not his real name, who does the Club and Sub podcast and who will be attending the MSG tomorrow night. He's got to play on Michailidis. But then again, John sometimes gets a little lightheaded from the tobacco that he chews. So that could be part of it. I like Pereira here. I think there are ways to get both him and Geary in your lineup. Could probably figure that out without my help. But yeah, I'm going to go with Pereira here. I do think that this fight could get interesting the longer it goes. I could certainly see momentum shifting to Michailidis, but give me Pereira here and give me him to get an early finish.
All right, I'm going to give Joe a complex here. I'm sorry about that, Joe. That will probably not happen again. I am going to now, however, move on to, as I say, the good stuff. It is Justin Gaethje at 8,900 taking on Michael Chandler at 7,300. The line on this fight, we have Gaethje coming in at minus 225, and Chandler can be had for plus 175. I think that this is a bad matchup for Chandler, sort of remarkably so. Just we know the gas tank issues, we know the leg kick issues, and we know that Gaethje is not a guy that you get him out of there with one big shot. I don't care what your power is like; it just doesn't happen. He has to drag you through hell first. And I can't trust Chandler to make it that far into a fight. The second round against Charles Oliveira, the reason he gets caught with that hook is he comes out and his hands are way low and he doesn't retract and he just gets caught. The hands are low because he's tired. He used a lot of energy in that first round. Now, Michael Chandler comes into the lightweight division and instantly becomes one of, if not the biggest hitter in that division. So, can he do it? Can he land a flush shot? It's not something you can bank on because we've never seen it before. So I'm not going to bank on it. We know that Chandler has problems specifically with the leg kicks. Khabib had to go through 3-4 different chain wrestles to get him to the floor. If Chandler has to work that hard, maybe he gets him once or twice. But if Chandler pops back up, if Gaethje pops back up, that works to drain the gas tank as well. So the avenue here is a big shot from Chandler. I think it's very small. I think it's very narrow. I think Gaethje takes this fight. I think maybe second, early third round stoppage. But I think Gaethje gets it done at some point. And Joe, to make sure I do not forget you, we go to you first here. So how you seeing this one?
I pretty much agree with everything you said, Chris. As hard as it is for me to admit that or acknowledge that, I do think this is a bad matchup for Chandler. I do think Gaethje could win this fight by leg kicks alone if that's what he wanted to do. I also believe, and to your point, that he is not going to finish Gaethje with one shot. I don't think that, Chandler has got better hand speed than, say, Michael Johnson, who caught Gaethje early, and, Gaethje came back and, they just destroyed Michael Johnson. But I just, again, I'm going to take a shot. I'll take a few shots with Chandler just because of his low price, and, because he does, could potentially get lucky. Anything could happen in MMA. But I really do like this matchup for Gaethje. I think if he fights a smart fight, which he doesn't always do, but if he fights a smart fight, this is his fight to win. He could win it any number of ways. But, give me a lot of Justin Gaethje here. I'm going to be probably, I don't know what his ownership is, but I'm going to be way over on Gaethje.
Yeah, I agree. Short and sweet there. I think that was well said. Mike, how are you having this one?
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. Bad matchup for Chandler. Leg kicks, cardio, chin issues. These things all favor Gaethje. The striking, much better, cleaner striker. Outside of a bomb early, and like you mentioned, it's very hard to get Gaethje out of there with just one shot. So, he had Oliveira hurt and couldn't get him out. What makes you think he's going to get Gaethje out of there? Because Gaethje is extremely, extremely tough. I do agree with Joe. This guy, you have to lay it with him in DraftKings, and I actually laid it with him minus 210 because I think that line is still shallow. I laid 4.2 units on him because I really think, the line should be, close to 300 here, because we're talking about, a small percentage of the chance that Chandler wins, and that's by, probably first round knockout, because outside of there, he's pretty much screwed. So, yeah, Gaethje on DraftKings, Gaethje, betting wise, and I just think he's the better fighter.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that highlights an interesting point where, value doesn't always mean plus money. It's good when we can get it there, but value means wherever the line should be and isn't. So if that means minus 210 should be a little deeper, well, then that's the value as well. And I'd have to agree in this spot that I think that line could be a little wider as well. We're going to move on here to an interesting fight to me. This is Shane Burgos at 9,000 taking on Billy Quarantillo at went too early, 7,200. The line on this fight, Burgos can be had minus 200, Quarantillo at plus 165. I really don't see a reason why this line has to be this wide. I think that Shane Burgos, we kind of get high off the fact that he comes forward, throws a lot of big shots, and is an opposing figure in there. And look, it's worked for him. But the thing I want to highlight, forget those last two fights where he took a beating. Don't forget them, but put them to the side for a minute and let's ask the question: how long has it been since Burgos got a win where he didn't have to face some significant adversity? Even in that fight with Makwan Amirkhani, he spent most of the first round on his back. He was getting lit up by counter shots. The guy just has no defense. And if we wrap it back around, he's taken a tremendous amount of punishment here. A guy, who body shutting off after 5 seconds of normal movement, something that, the 20-year guys who watch fights for a living, nobody's ever seen it before. So it scares me. It makes me think that, his shin can shut off at any time. And Billy Q, his boxing is looking better all the time. He was able to hold his own standing against Gabriel Benitez, and he's just an expert back taker, really gets there and gets that body lock immediately and hold you there. It is not going to be a guy who completely gasses and lets you back in the fight the way Amirkhani always does. So yeah, I'm taking Quarantillo here. I think The bloom is off the rose a little bit for Shane Burgos, at least in my opinion. Quarantillo only finished once in his 19-fight career, so makes me believe that he can stand up to the shots. And, like the body work, like the pressure, I just think Quarantillo is the more complete fighter and the more defensively responsible one. So give me Billy Quarantillo. And Mike, we'll start with you. How you seeing this fight?
Yeah, I agree with some of the stuff you said, especially the amount of beatings Burgos has taken, especially with the last fight. The last fight against Barboza, the way he went out, the delay was really, really concerning. And I think he's coming back a little too soon here after that type of knockout and that type of beating. The other thing you mentioned is go back his last 6 fights, right? Qatar, Holabao, Swanson. I don't think he got hurt in the Mirkani fight, but Emmett Barboza, every single one of those fights, he got hurt. Even Holabao hurt him in that first round. People were saying, oh, well, Billy Quarantillo doesn't hit very hard. Hey, he got, what's his name out of there last fight, and Gabriel Benitez is known to be durable. He got him out of there. The other thing I want to mention is when you got knocked out the way Burgos got knocked out and the amount of beatings that he's taken, what's not good is something that Billy Quarantillo does very well is throw a ton of punches. And whether it's one punch or accumulation of punches, that's the issue I have here with, Burgos. He's going to eat a lot of punches. He's not defensively responsible. He wants to, eat one to give one. And, Billy Quarantillo, he's going to match his cardio. He's going to keep coming forward. Both guys coming forward. I would like to see who's going to actually take the back foot in this fight. And, to me, I always play Billy Quarantillo round 3, and Billy Quarantillo round 3 is plus 2,000 here. The guy just keeps on coming. Burgos is, I'm very scared of, what's going to go on with him lately because, two of his last 6 fights, he's been stopped in the 3rd round. Billy Quarantillo has very good cardio, throws a ton of punches. I think it's a good spot for Billy Q, and I think this line is a little off. I'm going to say Burgos is the better striker. He's got a little bit more power, but again, a lot of durability concerns right now with Burgos. So when it comes to DraftKings, I think I rather play Quarantillo. He throws a ton of volume. I actually think he might be able to get a couple takedowns, but I don't think he's going to be able to control Burgos because he's really good. I mean, he's actually really good at stuffing takedowns. But the longer this fight goes, the more he's going to have that chance to get the takedown. So yeah, I like Billy Q here. I like Billy Q round 3 plus 2,000.
Okay, our next fight. Just kidding, Joe.
So I bet plus 200 that neither fighter takes a step backwards in the first 2.5 minutes. That's I really kind of like that line. So plus 200, neither fighter takes a step back in the first 2.5 minutes. I agree with most of what you guys say, although I do, in some respect, think that this is a step down in competition for Burgos compared to the killers that he's been facing. I don't think that Quarantillo hits quite as hard as he doesn't kick as hard as Barboza. Doesn't hit as hard as Cater and other guys that Burgos has fought. Burgos is part of that Tiger Schulman camp with, Jimmy Rivera. I think that this is a fight that Burgos has to win. I'm not saying he's going to get cut. I don't have a crystal ball, but this is probably, and again, this is no knock on Quarantillo because I think Quarantillo is a good fighter. Just in putting it in perspective, I just think this is the easiest opponent he's had in a while. With that said, I understand your concerns, coming back maybe too soon from, such a brutal beating. The other thing is, let's not forget that, Quarantillo, I know there's recency bias in all these fights, but Quarantillo did not look good against Gavin Tucker. I mean, as good as he looked in his last fight against Benitez, he looked that bad against Gavin Tucker. I thought Gavin Tucker was maybe an average to above average fighter, and he put a beating on Quarantillo. So, let's not forget that. That's only one fight removed from his last fight against Benitez. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick Burgos. But I do like this fight to target a bit on DraftKings, and I do think there's some value in Billy Q at 7.2K. I do think there's some value there. I think he's going to be pretty popular. Obviously opens things up, to build some stars and scrubs lineups at 7.2K. So, give me Burgos to win, but I could certainly see myself having more shares of Quarantillo on DraftKings.
All right, moving on to our next fight, which is Marlon Vera, 8,800, taking on Frankie the Answer Edgar at 7,400. Line on this fight, Vera can be had from minus 150. The comeback on Edgar plus 125. I think rumors of Edgar's demise have been greatly exaggerated. I don't think that his chin is just going to blow up in there, particularly a guy against Vera who spends a lot of time still. I mean, he's gotten better, but especially in the first round, spends a lot of time on his back foot. I think Frankie's going to be able to pressure him here, get the takedowns. We have to remember in that fight against Jose Aldo, the entire third round, he goes right to the back take and just locks him down for the third round. Edgar is a longstanding jiu-jitsu black belt. I think he can do much the same thing. He's going to have to be careful, but do I think Vera is the one-shot kill striker who's going to get him? I really don't. You could have said the same thing about Ortega before their fight. I understand, but I really just don't see Vera. I wouldn't bank on that happening again. Let's say that, and certainly wouldn't do it here against Vera. I must say I've never been the biggest fan of Marlon Vera. He's gotten much better, but I still, as I say, worry about his ability to cede ground in the cage, and I don't think that's going to play well for what Edgar is going to come in there and try to do to him. I think the takedowns are going to flow here. We know about the performance against Yair Rodriguez. Anything close to that would be amazing for Edgar at this price, and so I'm going to take the shot. I'm taking Frankie Edgar, and I think this is Joe, yes?
Yeah.
Joe, how do you see this one?
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning the same way here. I mean, originally I looked at this fight and I thought, maybe Cheeto. He's such a slow starter, and he's lost rounds to really bad fighters like Guido Canetti. I think, if Edgar is not completely washed, and I say that, with great morose because, Edgar, being a New Jersey guy, Edgar, there was always a billboard when Edgar was champ, New Jersey's own, Frankie Edgar. There was a big billboard right along the highway with Frankie Edgar on it. And that's before I really got into UFC to the extent I'm in now. I should say MMA. Frankie's got a gym maybe 15 minutes from my house as well. He's got a UFC gym. I want, emotionally, I want Edgar to win. Realistically, I think he's got a really good chance to win. And I just love that 7.4K salary. I think you could do a lot with that. There's some pretty obvious lineups that you could build with that 7.4K. So I do like that a lot. And I am going to take Edgar.
All right. Sounds good. Mike, how you seeing this one?
I'm right there with you guys. This is when we talk about huge step down, I mean, look at the guys Edgar has faced recently. Max Holloway, Korean Zombie, Pedro Munoz, Corey Sanhagen, Brian Ortega. I mean, this is a massive step down for Frankie Edgar. The flying knee, he took against Sanhagen. I think age actually doesn't matter there. Like anybody that gets caught with that flying knee is probably going to go out. And then 1 year removed. I mean, he went 5 hard rounds with Pedro Munoz, who's a much more powerful striker than Chito Vera is. Chito Vera, for me, is not a powerful striker. He's more of an attrition fighter. He gets guys there, later in the fight. He tires them out, and then he gets them out of there. He doesn't have that one punch power. Has some good elbows, good knees in the clinch, stuff like that. But I also think Frankie Edgar can easily take him down, can easily have top time against this guy. And this guy likes to play off his back a lot too. So, you guys mentioned he loses the first round a high percentage of the time versus very low level fighters. Guido Canetti, and we're talking about different levels here. And I think Edgar, even at 40, 1 year removed from a 5 round, very, very good fight against Pedro Munoz in which he won. I still think he has it, man. I still think Frankie Edgar has it. And, I have Frankie Edgar bet plus 142. I have a Frankie Edgar bet by decision plus 260. And I also have a fight goes to decision bet at minus 144. I just think this fight gets to the scorecards, and I think it's going to favor Edgar. And, the grappling is just going to be there for him. And the other thing is, unlike the other opponents from Marlon Vera, where, he kind of gets to him in the third round where they get tired, Frankie Edgar has a very, very good gas tank, so I don't think he's going to get him out of there in the third.
All right, moving on. We got our first of two title fights. Zhang Wei Lee. Well, I guess they're close enough. It doesn't matter. Zhang Wei Lee at 8,000. Rose Namajunas, the champion, at 8,200. Line on this fight is similarly close. We have Zhang Wei Lee at minus 120, Rose Namajunas plus 102. Interesting to see Wei Lee as the small favorite on some books here after taking that knockout in the first fight. I am on Wei Lee here because I think that the pressure striking will serve her well here. I also think we'll see a reemergence of the Weili who came into the UFC as sort of a lockdown grappler who would just outmuscle opponents. We haven't really seen that a lot lately. We've seen more Weili the striker, but that's what she was on the Chinese regional scene, and that's what she was coming in here. I think we see that again. We know that that's yielded fruit against Namajunas. I don't think that Weili is going to want to spend too much time standing at range. Those kicks, as it goes without saying now, can be lethal, can be a weapon. I think she's going to want to stay away from that, but I do think that she has a real path here if she does stick to the wrestling, which I think she will do. So I'm taking Wei Lee here. I think if you wanted to play Wei Lee in the last fight, it's one of those things where you kind of have to go back to her just because, you didn't really see enough. I mean, yeah, Rose set a trap and Wei Lee fell in it. That can happen. I don't think it's indicative of what's going to happen in the fight every time. One of the things about MMA is, it's all small sample size. So we get to see it run again. I think Wei Lee takes it. So that's my play. And I think we start with Mike here. Mike, how do you see this one?
You kind of mentioned something that's, accurate. Like, if you took Zhang Wei Lee last time at minus 235, which is what it closed at, and now she's at minus, 110, 125, whatever it is. I mean, what made you change your mind? One head kick that, you can't really you get much out of that head kick. You can't really determine that, Rose Namajunas was the value side because she landed a head kick, which is not a high, percentage play. It's not going to happen very often. So you mentioned something that's, very true. If you played Wang Zhe Li last time, you should be playing her again here at a smaller price. But for me, I think, both girls are pretty durable. I know everybody talks about Rose's head. Where's her head at? A lot of the narrative with her is her mental game, right? But, I mean, she went 5, hard rounds with Joanna. I think I like fight goes to decision. I got plus money on it at plus 116. I'm not sure what it's sitting at right now. But I kind of think this fight is going to go there. It's both girls are really good. I think the line is pretty accurate. I think it's a coin flip. Like I favor Rose on the feet. I think she's the much, longer fighter. And when it comes to submission grappling, she's the better submission grappling, but the better actual grappler wrestler is Zhang Wei Lee. She's the more powerful girl when it gets to the ground. So yeah, I think it's kind of a coin flip. If I had to take one, I would probably take Zhang Wei Lee. I just like her pressure. I like her cardio a little better the later this fight goes. And I have a bet that this fight's going to decision. So, yeah, I like Zhang Wei Lee here. And as far as DraftKings, I mean, you're probably going to have to target this fight. It's a 5-round fight. And, either, I can't really pick a side here. 8,200, 8,000. I think both of them are not bad, but I'd probably favor a little more on the Wei Lee side because you got a little bit of line value and you have the grappling from her.
Joe, you're up.
Yeah, pretty much what Mike said, with the exception of I have a much stronger take on Weili winning this fight. Mike made all the points. Like, if you bet Zhang last time, are you going to let a flash KO talk you off of betting her again at a much better number? There is some line value. Again, great point that Mike made. I am going to have shares of Rose, of course. But at 8K, that, fits some lineups that I really like. So I will be overweight to Zhang, I believe, and underweight to Rose, although I will be heavily targeting the fight. So give me Zhang, and, let's hope for a good and competitive fight.
All right, moving on to the main event, the absolute grudge match and rematch title fight. It is Kamaru Usman at 9,300, Colby Covington at 6,900. This fight is it's tough to call, only in a sense that I don't know. I guess I would I have a question for both of you that I'll wait till later, but I think I'm gonna take Usman here. I expected this line to be a little wider after Usman's win. I thought it would have been appropriate. I think he's evolved as a striker. I think he's sitting down on his punches a little more. I think he's trusts in his power a little more. But the line now out of control, which I just realized I forgot to give, but that's actually a good segue. So I'm going to pretend I did that on purpose. It's Kamaru Usman minus 350 and Covington plus 260. That seems way wide to me. Having said that, I still do like Usman here. I think we saw a pivotal thing in the last fight. Colby really uses that cardio as a weapon. He wasn't able to do that in the last fight. As close as it was, he had to take round 4 off because he was tired. He came back in round 5, and it was competitive for about the first 2 minutes until Usman took that over again. So pace and pressure are big weapons for Colby, and if he can't use them here, I think it could go downhill a little bit faster this time. So my play is Colby Covington. And I think what I would ask the two of you gentlemen, if you would want to answer in your reviews of the fight, do you think wrestling will play a factor here? And if so, who do you think is more likely to implement it first? And I think we're going to Joe here first. So, Joe, you're up.
Answer your question. No, I don't think wrestling will play into this fight. I believe the fight is going to be a carbon copy of the previous fight, which is going to be standing. I am going to go with Usman here. I do also agree that the line is probably a little bit wide. We'll have some shares of Colby at 6.9. For those who are not followers of scorecards and fights that finish, this fight would have likely ended a draw if Colby did not get knocked out. He was like up on one scorecard, down on another scorecard, and I think it was a tie on the third. So it's likely that this fight could have ended in a draw if he did not get finished in that last round. So yeah, people tend to forget that, and that's maybe why the line is so wide. I just like Usman here. Again, I am not buying into the narrative that he's now this potent striker. I think that circumstance plays more into that than actual skill. But I do like Usman here, but I'm going to have shares of Colby. I'm not sure how equal my shares are going to be, but I think this is a fight to target. I think this fight is very stackable in cash on DraftKings, because of the high output and the volume. So I am going to take Usman. Curious to what Mike has to say here.
Yeah, I'm pretty much there with you guys. The line is kind of ridiculous to me. In a close, very competitive fight, and the first time out. And you made a good point. Like, all of a sudden everybody's putting everybody used to complain just like 2 or 3 fights ago that, Usman's striking is not that good. And, he just has this wrestling base. And all of a sudden, 2 knockouts later against Burns and Masvidal, all of a sudden he's some great striker. I don't buy it, to be honest. Does he have a great jab? Yes, I really like his jab. I really like his body work, which is what worked the first time against Colby Covington, which he's probably going to go to the same well again, because I think those body punches slowed down Covington. But again, it's going to be a lot closer than people think, just because Usman stopped him last time. Colby Covington is a real 170-pounder. Gilbert Burns isn't. Gilbert Burns is a 155-pounder. And the other thing I will say is I don't like how, Usman reacted to some of those punches against Gilbert Burns in that first round. I mean, I know he can recover real good. I know he has a very good chin. But again, go back and watch that first round. He hurt him, and then he wasn't reacting to punches well, thereafter. The one thing that happened is Burns gassed himself out, trying to get the knockout. And, from there, Usman took over. So, did Usman all of a sudden turn into some great striker? No, because I think he still lacks some defensive skills. He still gets hit. And even against Masvidal in that first round, it was competitive. Masvidal landed, I think, more strikes in that first round. So, you can't sit here and tell me that this fight is not going to be competitive, because I really believe it will. But ultimately, what changes where Colby can actually get a win here? And I don't see it. And I don't think grappling is going to be there, because Usman is such a good defensive grappler himself. He's not going to get taken down. And I think that's going to wear on Colby's gas tank too. So, yeah, for me, I have to choose Usman here. But again, this line is way, way off to me. I might actually, if this hits plus, 280 range, I might take a shot with Colby Covington.
Okay, did we lose Chris?
I think we lost Chris.
Wow.
There
he
sorry
is.
About that. The stupid laptop has that thing where if you throw your finger on the mouse, it leaves the page the other way.
Oh, I hate that.
I ducked out. That's actually the second time it's happened. We didn't pay for it the first time, but
so now we have now we're doing hot takes.
We are doing hot takes as this closes the card. If you're new to this program, what we do is we take a spicy play, which should be right up Mike's alley, and we say that it's going to come in, and we stake our reputations on it. So, if anyone has one of us three ready to go, we'll take.
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm going to give you guys one. I'm going to say tail this at your own risk, but it is a parlay that pays 70-1. 70, that's 7-0. So tail this at your own risk. Okay. I'm gonna do this really slowly. Osborne Vergara, fight does not go the distance. That's no. Fight does not go the distance. -190. Ian Gary, Jordan Williams, no. Fight does not go the distance. That's -330. Chris Curtis to win outright. That's +245. Pereira and Michailidis, that is no. Fight does not go the distance, -225. Chris Barnett to win outright, +110. Ally Quinta to win outright, that's +155. Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler, no. Fight does not go the distance, -300. That will pay you 70-1. 70, that's 7-0. I'll repeat it again real quick. Fight, I'm going to give you just no's. No, Vergara Osborne. No, Gary Williams. No, Pereira Michailidis. No, Gaethje. Straight up, Iaquinta, Barnett, and Chris Curtis. And that pays 70-1. There you go. Live long and prosper.
There you go. I think that's the hot take of the card.
Elliot, based on that profile photo, you've already won, buddy. Man,
there you go.
You overshot your skis. Okay. You're a lucky dude. You already won. You don't need to tell me.
I'll take a shot. I am going to go all in on the deterioration of the Burgos chin I'm going to say Billy Quarantillo wins by KO TKO. Is my hot take. Mike, you got one queued up for us there?
Yeah, my buddy Ian Gary by submission plus 550.
There you go. And that works. If you have any hot takes in the chat, I know Nandalal has been posting them throughout the card, basically, and basically been the fourth man here. So we definitely appreciate that. But anybody else have some hot takes? Aside from Elliot, of course, which might be able to just stand alone as the take of the card, but hopefully he means because he's not going to bet it, not because it's not going to come in. But
we got to get Nan to come on one time to do like a guest segment.
Yeah,
like we could call it something like Nan's props, or actually no, I got a good one. Making bread with Nan. How do you like that?
absolutely.
Making bread with Nan. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Okay.
absolutely.
Okay,
All right.
Mike has got to bolt because his show is
Yep.
starting real soon. So, Mike, take off. Thanks for subbing for the DFS sniper. We'll hope to do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Mike, thanks so much. We are going to end the stream now. Thank you guys so much for listening. As I said, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out Mike, Narco Cop MMA YouTube, going live soon. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you on the next pay-per-view.